There's been a major disconnect between gamers and the access media for, well, years at this point, but specifically with Yotei. Since this game was unveiled, a lot of people didn't like Jin Sakai's replacement. A lot of people were upset with Erika Ishii being the lead actress. And of course, as time has gone on and we've gotten closer to launch and we finally gotten to that point, we saw controversy after controversy with employees and also Sucker Punch's official response. But now we are seeing the access media shill for this game as much as possible. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, this is a game that hurts my soul a little bit because I loved Tsushima. It was absolutely phenomenal, and unfortunately, I have zero hype for this game at this point. I'm not even going to play it anytime soon. Maybe when it's in a bargain bin, I'll pick it up, or if it goes free on like PlayStation Plus, I'd play it, though I have no interest in playing it right now at this point in time. And of course, there is a plethora of reasons that a lot of people have. Them replacing Jin with Atsu was a stupid move. They could have come up with more story for him, or they could have actually added a female as a protagonist, and it could have been Yuna. And basically everybody loved the first game, would have been perfectly fine with that because she was so important to the first game's story. Though the problem also lied in Erika Ishii being an activist and a Antifa member, as she had called herself, though the Charlie Kirk situation made everything worse for this game, and this title's already been out for days and days and days. Sony and also Sucker Punch have not made any statements on the sales numbers, which definitely is a big red flag, and we've heard reports that it's not doing so good. I know that there are shills with tiny X accounts that are saying, oh, it already hit 1 million sales in a day, and those types of numbers, but those were never confirmed, and they had absolutely no sources for those pieces of information. But now we are seeing the access media trying to shill for this game as much as possible. Now, we know with every title that releases in a series, there are journos who say it's a return to form. The most notable was Dragon Age the Veilguard. Oh, it's a return to form, and you guys are going to love it. They're doing the same thing here because BBC is saying Ghost of Yotei, a return to form for PlayStation? No, I don't think so. I don't think that this is the angle you really want to go with. But they put up this article. They were talking about how big budget single player blockbusters from in-house studios have been the key to Sony's console success. In the PlayStation 4 days, fans got a steady stream of cinematic adventures, but that felt more like a trickle since 2023 Spider-Man 2. However, Sony's newest release, Ghost of Yotei, is a return to its proven AAA format, as if Sony ever stopped that. Sure, since 2023, we've only gotten a handful of those types of games, but at the same time, it's because they have a slew of them coming out in the future. It's because you can't release, I don't know, 5 AAA big budget games from one studio a year. BBC here is brainless. I guess I have to give them a teensy tiny bit of credit because they do even talk about how Sony's faced disastrous failures like Concord, how it was taken offline just 2 weeks after its release, and they also had canceled multiplayer projects based on God of War and The Last of Us. But really, all they're doing here is trying their best to defend Sucker Punch from the evil chuds. They talk about how the death of right-wing American activist Charlie Kirk prompted a backlash within the studio because they fired the employee involved, and the founder, Brian Fleming, told the journalist Stephen Totillo that celebrating or making light of someone's murder is a deal breaker for us. But I think that this is so funny because they use the one part of this statement that actually evokes a sense of confidence and evokes a sense of responsibility. But if you actually get into his statement, it is absolutely, totally, and completely unprofessional. He said, Drew's no longer an employee here. I think we're aligned as a studio that celebrating or making light of someone's murder is a deal breaker for us, and we condemn that kind of in no uncertain terms. That's sort of our studio, and that's kind of where we are. That's not a statement that sounds very confident to me. You knew you were going into this interview. You knew you were going to be asked about it. So why didn't you have a professional response ready? I think we're aligned. That's kind of a deal breaker for us. That's sort of our studio. I would never want to be associated with Sucker Punch after a statement like that. But of course, they talk about how people were being a little bit mean to Sucker Punch. Going over to the next article, we have The Gamer saying 2025's biggest sequels, All Star Women, and only one received backlash. And I think that this is so hilarious to me because they come to the conclusion that typically games with women face backlash if they have women or if they're not attractive women. They say a subset of gamers will always be mad seeing women lead video games, especially if they aren't conventionally attractive. You're talking about a game that's doing amazing right now with a bug, okay? Sure, maybe there's some sexy fan art of Hornet out there, but nobody cares about females leading their games if they're well written. Sure, they have to have a really cool aesthetic to them, and yeah, sexy does sell, but people will still play games with a female, even if it's not the most gorgeous bombshell female character ever, if they're a good character. So you're trying to sit here and say, oh my gosh, the evil chud incel bigots attack games with women, but you are literally disproving your point because you're saying tons of other games with females this year have done amazing and only one major one that you are showing as an example has done bad. Maybe that's because people just are not happy with that game because of a dozen other problems. And this is talking only about sequels because then they would disprove their point even more. You have games that have come out this year with some of the best female characters ever written in video games, like Expedition 33. You have Split Fiction that came out with 2 females that tons of people loved. You have games like Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, which has a lead female in it who is really cool and really well written and just awesome in general. All you are doing is making yourselves look even more stupid. And this is a prime example as to why people do not trust the access media, because you will do anything and leave out any examples you can in order to prove your point. And then, of course, you get called out for it and it tanks your reputation even more. Ghost of Yotei didn't just face backlash because Atsu and Erika Ishii aren't conventionally attractive. It faced backlash because you replaced an amazing male character with a female, when if you wanted to do that, you could have just continued the Tsushima story with Yuna being a lead. You didn't do that, and that would have made you a hell of a lot more money. You have Erika Ishii, who is an activist and a self-proclaimed terrorist because she said that she's part of Antifa. You have the Charlie Kirk comments made by developers, and you also have Sucker Punch's god-awful response. Yeah, there's a multitude of reasons why Yotei isn't doing that good in the eyes of consumers, or why so many people were not excited for it and why it's faced so much backlash, but you're ignoring all of those intentionally. You have Games Radar sitting here saying, I had more fun exploring Ghost of Yotei than I have in any other open world game, not just this year, but ever. And it's perfectly fine if you like Yotei, if you love Yotei. I'm not trying to sit here and tell you what you can and cannot like, but when these people are getting paid to give good reviews for certain products, there is no way I'm going to defend them. There's no way I am going to trust them. And Games Radar, Polygon, The Verge, Kotaku, The Gamer, they are all one and the same, and you should never trust what they're saying. But of course, it's not just that it's an amazing open world game, it's the best ever, apparently now. You also have other smaller sites saying things like Ghost of Yotei boycott explained in what it actually did, how a switch to a new heroine, a fired developer, and loud posts collided with strong pre-orders and reviews, which is hilarious given we have gotten no analytic firms or even analysts coming out and saying the pre-order numbers at all, whether they were strong or weak, so you're just yapping at this point. So I definitely will be covering this again in the future, I am certain, but of course we all knew that the Access Media was going to try their best to defend this title tooth and nail, and now they're going one step further, even going on to say things like it's a complete return to form for PlayStation. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this important and informative, make sure to give this a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.